International Championship title, breaking off in frame 2. Rob Milkins did have a chance in the early stages of the first. Mr. Red. And Selby got to the snooker's required stage. Milkins got the snooker he needed to set up the chance to tie, but then found himself needing another one. And ultimately that proved too much. He's missed that red by a long way, very thick.
Yeah, and thick is the key, isn't it? When you hit them that way, and you miss them, and you hit too much of the red, is what we mean by thick, in case you wondered what it meant. And of course the cue ball's never going to head back to bulk, and the red's going to almost overtake it, which will happen there. And you leave your opponent in. You should call it hit them thick to stick, and you stick them all right.
Fresh from that clearance of 137 from Alfie Burden to go with a tournament high of 142 that he made in the previous round. He's now 2-0 up on David Lilley.
It's quite an interesting game of snooker, that, because you know that there's an angle on two players. David Lilley is not actually a professional. He's one of the best amateur players the game's ever seen. 3 times English amateur champion. And 13,500 for the winner of that game. It's a big payday, isn't it, for players of that sort of standard standing in the game. The money certainly does start to go up quite a lot in these events. 13,500, and then quarter-finalist 21.5. So players like that really could do with a win, and there's plenty of other players in the same position on the other tables.
Yes, Ian Burns and Stuart Carrington being examples, and of course the winner of their match plays the winner of this one next. Burns has taken the first. Judd Trump, who won
13.
the inaugural International Championship back in 2012. He's 2-0 up on Michael Holt. And the first frame still going between Joe Perry and Neil Robertson. Perry needs snookers.
And he's to get slipped past the yellow. That's actually a tremendous positional shot if he's on it. And that is, you couldn't have put that better with your hand where it's finished. It's on that Perry Robertson match. Playing in Daxing, but they practice on a table that's about 6 feet apart in the same club in Cambridge. Could have played it in there, couldn't they, that match? Good friends, really good friends. I seem to remember when Joe Perry was in a final against Neil Robertson. Robertson beat him and then cried, didn't he? Because his mate couldn't win it. How nice to think that he cared that much.
Yeah, it was the Wuxi Classic final, wasn't it? Went to the final frame, and I think Robertson was as upset for Perry as Perry was at not winning. But of course he did then land his first major title, Perry, winning the Players' Championship from 3-0 behind against Mark Williams. Since been a Masters finalist as well. Touching ball for Rob Milkins to play away from the Reds.
Looks like he's taking the cue ball round the angles here off this red. You can see the right-hand side he's applying. Well, he meant to take the cue ball wider than that. However, it's a good shot, because he knew he had complete cover on that side. This is where Selby plays shots that don't look good, but are. You've got Milkins in trouble.
Foul, enemies. Mark Selby 4.
Interesting one, this. I wonder, there's an argument here, if that red is not potable, not to have it back, but to have it played from where it is. Yeah. He's asking for the ball to be played from there because he cannot see that left red at all this time. Oh, I don't think he can. Well, maybe he can just see an edge. Played it better from what looked to be a more difficult position. Selby acknowledges that.
Yes, Neil Robertson has taken that opening frame. I mentioned Perry needed a snooker. 1-0, 2-0 up on Xiaogadong and in on a break of 58 in the third.
Yes, it's another tournament, Philip, this week where a lot of the young Chinese players are knocking right on the door quite hard, aren't they? You know, we've seen Yan Bingtao, we've seen all the decent players coming through. He won this morning in a nail biter. And Yan Sijun, I've always thought he's going to be the one that sneaks up on the blind side and could be the best of the lot.
He made the quarterfinals of the China Championship this season, where Selby ended his run.
Obviously, Zhou Yulong was beaten by Sonia Carney earlier today. A good result for Carney, having picked that win up on the day, or the day after he beat the world champion, Mark Williams, yesterday. Sometimes it's hard to come out and get a good result the next day after a big win like that, but he managed it. Well, that was not as planned, of course, from Robert Milkins. This is where you probably see the cue ball travelling for the furthest it can be on a table to the object ball. I've never quite worked out how far it is from corner to corner, but it's more than 12 feet. I think it's something to do with Pythagoras, isn't it? I have been told. If anyone wants to remind me how far that is from corner to corner, it's about 13 feet. But if the ball's over the pocket, you'd think you'd pot it. Fortunately, this time, you'd have to play the swerve anyway, so it's even more difficult. Could be playing a plant onto the red over the hole. Goodness, he's done some damage here, hasn't he? Potentially.
By Mark Selby's standards, that was quite a risky shot, trying to play the cue ball from the cluster onto the red over the pocket.
Yeah, I think a billiard player would be very disappointed to have missed that particular cannon. Well, Selby is good at pool as he is. I don't know how good he is at billiards. Now, Rob Milkins has really got to take this, because you can't wish for a better opportunity than this, really. He went to everywhere.
Seven. Eight.
He'll be pleased that the other red didn't go in there, because you can sometimes pot two reds, and while it's not a foul, it just means there's one less red to pot with the colour later. Just got got to keep his concentration, because really, if the black was on its spot, that's the only thing that could be better about this table. The reds
14.
aren't perfect.
15. 20. 21. 26.
Well, if he dares to play on the black, it really would clinch the frame, but I can understand why he wouldn't be too willing to do that, because I think he can win the frame with what's in the middle of the table.
$27.
And as you say, he's had some good results, beating up on Shanghai in the previous round with quite a few frame-winning breaks along the way.
32.
Of course, he's a few in front here, so as long as his high-value colours are taken, the only safe red won't be needed, but that is, I'm guessing, some sort of a kick. Just has to make sure this is still a red over the pocket.
Yeah. $38. $39.
As you can see, with someone like Rob Milkins, so he just points the
39.
cue, I was going to say, which he tends to do. How on earth did he miss this?
That is a big error from Milkins.
1.
Yeah, he just points his cue and usually lets everything else do the rest. He's not technically minded. But whatever he did, he didn't do it right there. The only consolation is, of course, Selby will certainly need the red up the table here. But that's quite a hammer blow that he didn't make more from that.
$7.
Joe
8.
Perry has quickly levelled up with Neil Robertson at 1-all. Wang Xijun 3-0 up on Zhao Guodong. And Zhao Jintong over on table 1 has pulled the frame back against Ding Junhui, so Ding leads 2-1. Well, this would really hurt Rob Milkins if Selby were to clear from here. He has got that awkward red on the right side cushion. But Milkins had a glorious opportunity to level the match just then, missing that straightforward pink. These are the frames that really hurt.
15.
Nothing else is safe. Yellow a little bit awkward, but it's a decent chance for Selby to really rub salt into the wound.
$16.
Well, it's going to be an awkward shot here because he wants to push the red over the middle, but it's so easy to just put a bit too much on it and push it beyond the middle bag. Well, I think he was mindful of that, and he's done neither. So Milkins will breathe again. The frame is very much still up for grabs. So the problem that Selby had is that when Milkins was at the table, he wasn't going to need this red that's awkward, but Selby was always going to, because he was a few points behind.
Mark Selby, 23.
Selby's had a look to see whether the red will go by the brown. If so, he'll take it on. Well, I don't know, I'm not sure whether he'll even go for this. It's a risky one. Yeah, that's where Selby plays the game differently to other players. He realises that is a way that he could lose the frame. He probably feels that he'll outmanoeuvre Milkins on this last red where all the colours are, because there's an opportunity for getting a snooker in a safety battle. So he's showing patience there.
Yet another century to report. Mark Allen in frame 3 against Hossein Vafai, who leads 2-0, but Allen on a break of 120 right now. Enough points there to tie Alfie Burden's tournament high break of 142.
Well, I mentioned that if Selby would fancy winning that battle, but it's Milkins that's won it.
And Mark Allen has cleared the table for a 142 break. Brilliant comeback from 4-0 behind against Liam Highfield. Now 2-1 behind against Hossein Vafai. The highest break of the tournament earns £3,000, unless it's a maximum, in which case it's 5,000. Of course, we reset the rolling £5,000 break prize for the 147 with 2 of them in the recent English Open. Except Chiron New and Ronnie O'Sullivan, of course. This feels like a must-win frame for Rob Milkins. This is his second glorious chance to win it.
9.
That's a good shot.
That really was a good shot, Philip. You're absolutely right to get the angle to take the cue ball round. Yes, it is a frame he really has to win now. He's burned a great chance earlier, but it wouldn't matter if he won it eventually.
So blue and pink for 1-all.
He played that pretty well also.
$21.
Well, he missed an easy pink earlier in the frame when he had the chance to close it out.
It was actually quite similar to this, but I'm sure he won't roll it in as gently as he played the previous one.
Yes, no mistake this time from Rob Milkins. He had to win that frame. He has done in the end. He did it the hard way. And he'll be mighty relieved because Mark Selby was threatening to punish him for 2-0. Instead, it's 1 frame apiece. Frame 3 of a possible 11 is coming up after this short break. Round of 32 day in Darching. Mark Selby and Rob Milkins having a chat. Not quite sure what that's about, but it's 1 frame apiece. Selby with the first. Milkins gratefully levelling at 1-all when he might have blown his chance, missing a very straightforward pink to allow Selby back in, but in the end he got it done on the colours to equalise, so 1 each. The winner of this to play either Ian Burns or Stuart Carrington in the round of 16. These players of course in the top half. Selby's the defending champion. Cracking match between Zhao Jintong and Ding Junhui on table 1. Ding flew through the first 2 frames, including yet another century. But Zhao has hit back to take the third and is on a break in the 4th, threatening to level. Burns and Carrington, by the way, are at 1-all at the moment. Milkins needed a kiss on the brown there to get the cover.
Yes, he did, although this shot, as much as the red you'd fancy him for, the cue ball could go anywhere. He has no control over it. Heading into the reds, and he needs a bit of luck, I would say. He couldn't possibly predict for sure where this will end up.
1.
He'll take that.
He will. He actually potted it thick and threw the cue ball wider. No belief that he played it like that. Anyway, as you say, all contributions gratefully received.
$8. $9.
Selby has his points for winning this tournament 2 years, of course, ago, coming off. So he'll be looking for a really deep run once again. Of course, he'd love to defend his title for the 2nd year running, as he looks to keep daylight between himself and Mark Williams at the top of the rankings.
17.
It's going to be fascinating to see, given what we discussed earlier about his comparatively poor form in the UK in the last 12 months or so, how he goes in the Triple Crown events, the first of which of course is coming up at the start of December, the UK Championship, which he's won twice. Only managed 1 win, didn't he, last season in 3 biggies. Judd Trump now 3-0 up on Michael Holt. Trump, like Selby, is in the top half.
31.
Could potentially play him in the semi-finals. The winner of that match will play Yan Bingtao. That could be a real cracker. Bingtao squeaking through earlier against Ryan Day.
38.
Oh, there's been a steal from Ding Junhui next door, hence the hubbub. They're at the interval. Zhao was looking set for 2 each, but I think Ding has
39.
just moved 3-1 in front there.
Well, shot here, he's gone into the bunch and developed them. He's wrong side of the blue, but with the brown off its spot, getting up and down is not the most difficult shot you'll see.
$44. 45.
Was nicely controlled, wasn't it? Always that risk when you go into the cluster that a red could go in along with the blue, but Selby controlled it well. It's looking good here for 2-1.
$51. 58. 59.
Nicely through the gap. Almost there in the frame.
What a mini session for Wang Xizhen, quarter-finalist at the China Championship this season. He's 4-0 up at the interval on Zhao Guodong, a former ranking event finalist. Appeared in the first ever all-Chinese final against Ding.
67.
Yes, I enjoyed watching him in the English Open as well. Played some good snooker there. He's coming through quickly. I like him. And he comes without some of the hype that some of the other Chinese young players have got with them, you know, the hype that you don't really need. I think the younger Chinese need to just get on with their game.
75.
Ones that creep up on the blind side. Like Lu Honghao, who looked brilliant last week against Ronnie O'Sullivan. Unlucky not to win that match. These are the players that you've really got to keep an eye on.
Well, Mark Selby got a bit of luck at the start of this frame in landing perfectly on the black, hence the rueful expression
82.
of Rob Milkins, but it was Milkins who'd left that red over the right corner pocket to allow Selby in for what has been a frame-winning break. Could be a century.
$89. 90. $96.
Oh, for Selby, that was actually disappointing cannon. He's got a good nudge on the blue, but the century is a certainty now, but he tried to push the red into play. And it's yet another century. I don't know in a tournament like this what the record is for centuries, but there's going to be 100, I think, plus. Because we're way into the 60s. Coming in from all angles, aren't they?
And not even halfway through the tournament.
Mark
That's
Selby.
his fourth of this event. Mark Selby made 3 against Ken Doherty, and he's made the most of a little bit of good fortune positionally at the start of that frame to re-establish his advantage in this round of 32 match with Rob Milkins, who now trails by 2 frames to 1.
Again playing with a touch of left-hand side.
$26.
He knew he'd overhit straight away, but again he finds a way round to the middle to keep the break going.
$30.
Again, it's been a struggle, this break, finding a red. It's not been easy. Just passes the other red, I think, the one by the pink. Alternative is the cut back to the right corner. Going for the latter.
$31.
That's just the perfect kiss. They're getting a few at the moment.
$36. $37.
It's been a frustrating mini-session for Rob Milkins. He would have been relieved to win the second frame, which might have gone against him as well, but a combination of some fluent
45.
scoring and a bit of luck has allowed Mark Selby a great chance here to lead 3-1 at the interval.
Yes, it's taken him a long time to get into this position, but all four reds pot, as you can see, so he had a huge area to play into.
52.
Assuming Selby does the business here at the end of this frame.
53.
While they go off for their 15-minute break, we will be crossing over to table 1 for coverage of Ding Junhui's match with Zhao Jintong, one of the most talented of the young Chinese players, and there are plenty of them. 3-1 at the interval for Ding, when it might have been 2 each.
60.
But this is Selby's third contribution over 50. He made 102 in the previous frame.
61.
And he only needs this black to leave Rob Milkins needing a snooker.
Yes, took a long time for him to get into prime position, but now, you know, he could be on the verge of back-to-back centuries. It's not to be sniffed at, is it? That sort of standard.
68.
It's interesting people are talking about these tables being easy. The breaks would suggest that's
69.
correct. They are all templated, though. I'll repeat what I always say. The templates are universal for the tournament tables. But for some reason, they don't always seem to be exactly the same. A few have gone in that didn't look in. A lot of
76.
talk on social media about a shot that Selby potted yesterday against Ken Doherty, right along the right cushion. It didn't look anywhere near and it dropped in. The players are all getting involved in that, saying it wouldn't have gone in on the table I played on. So the odd one drops in, which does surprise people. I think if you hit them badly, that you'd like to hope they wouldn't drop. He hasn't hit too many badly in this break.
82. 83.
Yes, it was a superb red, wasn't it, into the green pocket that launched this break.
$90. $91.
Mark Allen has come back from 2-0 behind to draw level at his interval with Hossein Bafai, 2 each.
$99.
Well played, Mark Selby. A 14th century of the season, his 5th of the tournament.
104.
And Rob Milkins is going to have a lot to do in the second half of this match.
106.
Yes, he's certainly moved up a gear, hasn't he? I mean, as I said earlier on, back-to-back centuries, you certainly shouldn't take a performance like that lightly.
109.
He's moved that cue ball around the table to make this break, as you can see.
113.
Blacks, blues, browns, greens and yellows all involved.
$118.
And one of the most prolific break builders in the game's history, of course. 532 centuries now. Made 44 last season. And he's cleared the table here. Well, that's superb stuff. That is world #1 snooker from Mark Selby. 102, followed by a 131 clearance launched by a brilliant red. And Rob Milkins has plenty to do on the other side of the interval. Mark Selby is leading by 3 frames to 1.